Greetings to everyone. Welcome back once again to this educational channel called Learn Bio with Janet. Today we'll be discussing some questions which I posted in the previous video, and these questions are related to immunity. Alright, in the last video we studied passive immunity. So the questions here are related to the Form 4 Biology KSM syllabus, Chapter 11, specifically 11.3 on types of immunity. Now, Form 5 students who are studying the old KBSM syllabus can also go through these questions as they are related, very much related to the KBSM syllabus, that is the Form 5 topic on transport, that is Chapter 1. So in this video, we'll be discussing the biology behind COVID-19, which is a pandemic that has hit the world today. Now, this COVID-19 pandemic is a current issue, and it can be a HOTS question for the up-and-coming SPM examination next year. So let's discuss the biology behind COVID-19. And we'll also discuss some HOTS questions that can be asked for SPM, in the SPM, and also the answers. So let's begin. Let us discuss the answers for Chapter 11, the Chapter 11 questions on immunity. Firstly, number 1, explain the difference between an antibody and an antibiotic. So an antibody is shown here, the antibody molecule, okay, which is Y-shaped. Antibiotic, like the colorful antibiotics given by the doctor. Now, an antibody is a protein produced by a lymphocyte, which is a white blood cell or a leukocyte. But an antibiotic is a chemical substance produced by microorganisms such as fungi or bacteria. It is not produced by lymphocytes. Number 2, an antibody is naturally produced in a person's own body to destroy antigens. It is not eaten because it is already produced in the body. But an antibiotic is a medication that must be eaten in order to destroy or inhibit the growth of bacteria in the body. Thirdly, an antibody is very specific in action and acts only on one specific type of pathogen. Okay, but an antibiotic has a wider range of pathogens that it can destroy, right? So it's used to destroy and inhibit the growth of more types of pathogens, although it may not be suitable for all pathogens. Now, an example of an antibody is agglutinin or antitoxin, but an example of an antibiotic is penicillin, which is extracted from the fungus, okay, from a fungus. Let us now discuss an interesting topic, a disease that has spread all around the world and caused many infections and deaths. And this is the coronavirus disease 2019. So this topic is important as a HOTS question for biology, SPM, and also even for other subjects like the languages. And your general knowledge about this topic may be tested in the exam. So let's see what kind of questions can be asked and what the answers are. Question 2A, coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 is a contagious respiratory disease caused by a type of virus called severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 or SARS-CoV-2. So, based on this statement and of course on your general knowledge, state 2 ways in which the COVID-19 virus is transmitted. 2 marks. Okay, so if you base it on this statement, you can see that the COVID-19 is a contagious respiratory disease. So respiratory diseases, for example, like influenza, they usually spread through the air in the respiratory droplets. Let's look at the answer. COVID-19 is a respiratory disease that is transmitted in various ways, for example, through the air, in the respiratory droplets or discharge from the nose of saliva when an infected person coughs or sneezes. It may be inhaled or land on the noses or mouths of healthy people. For example, when an infected person, a person who is infected with the COVID-19 disease, were to cough or sneeze, he will expel the respiratory droplets through his nose or the saliva through his mouth, and these droplets will contain the virus, the coronavirus. So these droplets may be airborne for a while, and some of it may land on people. So if it is inhaled by healthy people or land on the noses or mouths of healthy people, it can infect them. Secondly, through contact with someone who is sick with this virus, such as touching or shaking hands with an infected person. So through handshaking, the virus can be passed from the infected person who has the virus on his hands to the hand of the person who is healthy. And then when the person who is healthy were to touch his face or nose or eyes with his hands that are contaminated with the virus will then be transferred to his body and will gain entry through the face or nose or eyes. Another way is through indirect contact. When a healthy person were to touch an object that already has the virus on it, okay, maybe an infected person has touched this object and left some virus there, and then if a healthy person were to touch it and then touch his face or nose or eyes, he will transfer the virus to his body and it can enter through the face or nose or eyes. So choose any of these ways, any two of these three ways to get your 2 marks. Let's look at the next question. State 3 symptoms of COVID-19. So when you're asked to state, it means to give a brief answer. Okay? So the 3 symptoms of COVID-19 are fever, dry cough, that means a cough that doesn't have phlegm, sore throat, or shortness of breath, meaning difficulty in breathing and the person will keep on trying to breathe faster and harder, okay, because of the lack of oxygen in the body. Fatigue or tiredness, body or muscle ache or pain, headache, and loss of smell and taste. So any 3 symptoms, for example, fever, dry cough, and sore throat, these are very common symptoms of COVID-19 infection. Question 2C, explain 3 effects of COVID-19 disease on the health of a person. 6 marks. So you're asked to explain 3 effects, meaning that you have to explain how the disease, the COVID-19 disease, affects the body and then what symptoms it causes. So firstly, we are going to talk about the respiratory system and then the other systems that are also affected by COVID-19. Now for the respiratory system, this is the first system that the coronavirus, which causes COVID-19, will attack. Okay, so this virus will first infect the nose, the trachea, which are the airways, the mouth and the throat region, and cause fever and cough. Now, the occurrence of fever will be explained more in the slides that are coming up. So number 2, after infecting the upper respiratory tract, the infection will spread to the lungs. That means the virus will then move down to the lungs, the lower part of the respiratory system, and attack the alveoli, which are the air sacs. So the coronavirus will infect the cells, epithelial cells on the alveolus or alveoli, and these are called the alveolar cells. It enters these cells where it replicates, meaning it will produce more new viruses just like itself by using the host cell's material. So the host cell, that means the human cells, will break open and they are destroyed, releasing new viruses, many new viruses that will then infect other cells. In this way, the lungs are damaged. The alveolar cells are destroyed and the lungs are damaged. Then, as the immune system fights back, it will cause inflammation of the lungs and alveoli. So this will further aggravate the situation if the inflammation is very serious or severe. Okay, so actually inflammation is an immune response to injury, and it is marked by the dilation of capillaries. That means the capillaries will dilate or expand, and then the capillaries will become more permeable, so fluids will move out of it too, right? And leukocytes will migrate to the region in the lungs, and then inflammation causes swelling, redness, heat, and pain to occur in the lungs region, the region of the lungs. All this is actually to eliminate the pathogens and the damaged tissues. However, it can cause serious side effects. Okay, for example, severe infection causes pneumonia as the inflamed lung tissues start to fill with fluid. The fluid is from the blood capillaries surrounding the alveolus. All right, as you can see here, the alveolus or alveoli are filled with fluid and pus. Thus, it reduces the ability of the alveolus here, or alveoli, to supply oxygen to the blood here. Oxygen cannot diffuse easily through this region of the fluid and into the blood. Thus, the person will struggle to breathe to obtain enough oxygen, and this causes the symptom of severe breathlessness. You cannot breathe, short of breath. It may lead to acute respiratory distress and require mechanical ventilation, where there is a machine to keep the patient breathing, right? Because he cannot breathe on his own. So the coronavirus will also cause fever. How does fever come about? During the infection, leukocytes or white blood cells will release a chemical substance called pyrogens, a substance that causes fever, meaning the body temperature will become elevated. For example, above 38 degrees Celsius. That is fever. Next, the virus also affects the heart because it causes inflammation of the heart muscles. Just like it causes inflammation of the lungs, it also causes inflammation of the heart muscles. And this is called myocarditis, which can lead to heart failure and death. Now, the coronavirus also affects the kidneys of the patient. So patients may vomit or have diarrhea and other symptoms, which will cause the body to have low blood pressure as a result of the coronavirus. And then when blood pressure is low, there's lack of blood circulation to the kidneys, resulting in kidney failure. Thus, the virus damages many organs or systems in the body, such as the heart, the kidneys, the liver, and it can cause multiple organ failure and death. So death is also an effect of the disease, COVID-19 disease. Two more effects are stated here. The circulatory system. The cells that line the blood vessels, that are on the wall of the blood vessels, are also attacked by the virus. And this causes the blood vessels to leak fluid, right? Then the blood inside the blood vessels will thicken because of the loss of fluid, and blood clots can form in the blood vessels. So these blood clots are very dangerous as they can block blood vessels. Okay, especially blood vessels of the heart or the brain. So if it blocks the blood vessels here in the coronary artery of the heart, for example, if let's say there's a blood clot here, okay, due to the effects of the virus, then this blood clot can reduce or block the blood flow to the muscles here under this blood vessel. And when the muscles, the cardiac muscles here, do not get enough oxygen for respiration, this oxygen must be transported through the blood, but the blood vessel is blocked. So the cardiac muscles will not get enough oxygen for respiration and they can die. So when the cardiac muscles die, it can lead to a heart attack. Okay, so blood clot can lead to a heart attack because it will block the blood flow that supplies oxygen to the cardiac muscles or the muscles of the heart. Now, if the blood clot occurs in the brain, okay, in a certain part of the brain, that part of the brain will die because it will not receive enough oxygen as the blood flow is blocked by the blood clot. So it will cause certain brain cells to die, and the person will experience a stroke where there is impairment of movement or speech and other activities. Lastly, the immune system is also affected by the coronavirus. So the coronavirus that causes COVID-19, the infection of this virus can cause the immune system of the body to overreact. An exaggerated immune response can occur, whereby the immune system, the macrophages and other cells, macrophages, may produce excessive amounts of the inflammatory proteins called cytokines. So these chemical substances called cytokines actually cause inflammation, but it is meant to help the body to act against the pathogens and to help the body to heal. Okay. However, if the immune system is overreacting and it produces excessive amount of these inflammatory proteins, then it can cause an adverse effect. So this reaction is called the cytokine storm, where excessive amounts of cytokines are released, which cause inflammation, that is swelling, redness, pain, and heat at the site there. So if excessive inflammation occurs to the cells or organs, it can cause organ failure and death. Let's go on to question 2D. Discuss 3 steps that can be taken to prevent the spread of COVID-19. 6 marks. Now, the task word or command word here is discuss or explain. So if you're asked to explain or discuss, you must go in depth a bit to talk about why you have to take a certain precaution or to carry out a certain step, the reason why, not just the step itself. For example, if we say that we have to wash our hands frequently with soap and water, give the rationale behind it. Or you can wash your hand with the alcohol-based sanitizer by rubbing for at least 20 seconds, right? What's the reason for that? So the soap and the alcohol can kill the virus, and then they can be washed off from our hands with the water. Okay. Now, secondly, avoid crowded places and also close contact with people who are sick with any respiratory disease illness. This is to prevent being infected with the COVID-19 virus in the droplets of the infected people, should the infected people be infected with the COVID-19 virus. All right. So by avoiding the places and close contact, we can keep our distance from the respiratory droplets so that they will not be inhaled by us, or also will not land on the mouth or the nose or the eyes. So C, clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces and objects. Okay, as you can see here, you can wipe the table with a disinfectant that can kill the virus. That is in order to kill the virus which may have contaminated the surfaces. Maybe some infected person had touched the objects, the object concerned. So the virus there can be killed with disinfectants. Okay, certain disinfectants. Now, avoid touching the eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. This is to prevent the virus from the hands from entering through these body parts. Okay, so if you ever want to touch your eyes, nose, or mouth, you have to wash your hands well with soap first and make sure it's clean before touching it. Now, when coughing or sneezing, cover the mouth and nose with a tissue, not with our hands. So many people cough or sneeze and then they cover their hands as they're coughing. That's the wrong way, because this will we have to not use our hands so that it can prevent the transfer of any virus from the mouth or nose onto the hands, and then it may contaminate other surfaces, and also vice versa. So It prevents the transfer of the virus from the dirty hands to the mouth. Okay. F, wear a face mask in public places. So what's the reason of the face mask? Firstly, is to reduce the transmission of the virus between people. Because the mask can act as a barrier to prevent the entry of the virus from the external environment, and also in a way to prevent the respiratory droplets from coming out should the person be not well, should the person cough or sneeze. Let's look at an interesting question, which is more advanced on the structure of the coronavirus. So have you ever wondered what the structure of the virus is like and why it is so dangerous? And also, how does it infect human cells? How does it so easily infect the human cells? Okay, let's read this question. The diagram below shows the structure of the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Based on this diagram, explain the structure of the virus. 5 marks. Okay, so it's a HOTS question. So when you come to try to tackle a HOTS question, you have to study the diagrams carefully and find out what information can be used that you can elaborate on. All right, now notice that you're asked to explain the structure of the virus. So let's see what the labels say here. So here you see the virus, all right, and this is the human host cell. So in the virus, you can see a nucleocapsid protein that encloses the genetic material called RNA. So this virus contains RNA, whereas some other viruses may have DNA instead. Okay, either DNA or RNA. In this case, the coronavirus contains RNA. The RNA is its genetic material. Okay, and then surrounding this nucleocapsid protein and RNA is a lipid membrane made of lipids. And finally, we can see here that the yellow structures are called the spike proteins, okay, that can attach or bind to the human receptors, okay, which are molecules called ACE2 on lung cells, human lung cells and other cells in the body. Okay, so many cells have these human ACE2 receptors, which is like a doorway that can allow substances to enter the cells. So this virus has the spike protein that can bind to or attach to the ACE2 receptors. Notice that the shapes are matching in this case, right? Now, so we can start off by talking about the nucleocapsid protein, then the lipid membrane and the spike proteins, and elaborate on them with the knowledge that we have studied about viruses. Okay? Now, the coronavirus contains a nucleocapsid protein enclosing RNA, which is its genetic material. Okay? So the RNA contains the genetic code to make more viruses through its human host cell. And the process of reproducing these viruses is called replication. That's the part about the nucleocapsid protein. Okay? Next, we talk about the lipid membrane. So it surrounds the RNA. So the RNA is surrounded by a lipid membrane. And next, we talk about the spike proteins. So on the surface of this lipid membrane are the spike proteins. Okay? You can talk about where they are found, which can bind to human receptors, ACE2, on human cells. So that's why it's so dangerous. Okay? Because it can bind to the human receptors easily. This type of human receptor. And then what does the spike protein do? So once the spike protein binds to the human receptors, it will enable the viral RNA, this strand, to be injected into the cells. They can enter and infect the cells easily once the spike protein binds to the human receptor. Okay? And after the viral RNA has infected the cells, it will direct the cell to make more copies of the coronavirus. And then when the cells burst, more viruses will be released. Now that's related to its reproduction. Okay? So we have discussed the nucleocapsid protein, the lipid membrane, spike proteins, and the functions of some of the parts. So that's the answer for this question on the structure of the virus. Next question. Question 3. Why is it important to develop a vaccine for the COVID-19 virus? 4 marks. So recently we have heard about the development of the vaccine, right? Different vaccines for COVID-19 virus. So why is it important to develop this vaccine? Now, firstly, COVID-19 disease is a highly infectious and dangerous disease that not only spreads easily among humans, but can also kill a person. Thus, a vaccine will help people to acquire the artificial active immunity against the COVID-19 virus so that they will not fall sick. They'll be able to resist infection by the virus should the virus try to infect them, even at the first opportunity. Okay, they will not fall sick. They'll be able to resist infection by the virus. So how does the vaccine work? Now, a COVID-19 vaccine would contain the dead or weakened COVID-19 virus, the inactivated virus or its antigen, such as the spike protein found on the surface of the COVID-19 virus. All right. So nowadays there is a new technology using synthetic mRNA to produce the vaccine, which we will not discuss here. Okay. But there are vaccines that are using the dead or weakened COVID-19 virus, which is the use the inactivated COVID-19 virus, which is the traditional way of making a vaccine. So why do we have to use this inactivated or maybe dead COVID-19 virus? Now, this virus in the vaccine is injected into the body of a person, and that person's lymphocytes will be stimulated to produce specific antibodies to destroy the virus, because we have given the body a sample of the virus or its antigen, that is the spike protein. So the lymphocytes will get to work to produce specific antibodies to destroy this foreign substance or foreign particle. In that way, they will prepare the body to really destroy the virus during real infections in the future, because they already have the specific antibodies beforehand. Okay, so the lymphocytes are the ones, the cells that are stimulated to produce the specific antibodies to destroy the COVID-19 virus. Should the inactivated form of the COVID-19 virus be injected into the body. So when it's inactivated, the person will not fall sick because of the virus, but he will be able to produce the antibodies to destroy the virus. So this is a form of artificial active immunity. Next question. Through what process can a virus render a vaccine against it ineffective? Through what process can a virus make the vaccine that's supposed to work against it to become ineffective? Okay, so we are at war with the virus, with the COVID-19 virus, for example. So we try to produce a vaccine, but the virus has something up its sleeve, and that is the process of mutation. So some types of viruses can mutate very quickly as it jumps from host to host, and mutation is an abnormal, sudden and random change in the genetic material of a cell. So in this case, the virus has the strand of RNA in it. All right, so it can undergo mutation, and the virus or antigens on it, such as the spike protein, which is the foreign particle on the surface of the virus, can change in structure and in other characteristics. Now, this can then cause the specific antibodies produced by the lymphocytes earlier through vaccination. So the antibodies are for the original strain of virus to become ineffective, because the antibodies may not be able to bind, may be unable to bind to the mutated antigen on the virus, as it was not exposed to as the body was not exposed to this mutated antigen or mutated virus at all. It was exposed to the original strain of the virus, okay, not the mutated virus or antigen. So the original antibody will not be able to destroy the mutated antigen, and this antigen may cause problems in the body again. There will be no protection against the mutated antigen. Let us go on to a new question, which is not related to COVID-19. A boy is bitten by a fierce stray dog. His parents are worried that he may be infected. What should they do? 4 marks. So we have to be able to understand what type of immunity can be given for each situation. Like when the boy is bitten by a fierce stray dog or bitten by a snake, for example. Is he going to be given a vaccine? No, because for vaccine, the production of antibodies will be too slow to help him in case he's already infected. So the parents should take him to a doctor who will give him an injection of the anti-rabies anti-serum. Okay, so this anti-serum actually contains the specific ready-made antibodies that can destroy the rabies virus. These are the antibodies that work against the rabies virus. So straight away, the doctor will inject a high concentration of this anti-serum containing the antibodies into the boy, okay, because he may then suspect that this boy may be infected with rabies virus, maybe, through the dog bites. Then, now after the boy is injected with the antibodies, he will be able to resist infection by the rabies pathogen for a short period of time, because he has a high level of the antibodies in his body. But these foreign antibodies can break down. So the boy is said to acquire artificial passive immunity against rabies. Okay. Last few questions. Number 6. State 3 diseases that a baby in Malaysia is vaccinated or immunized against in the first year of his life, when he's first born, the first year of life. So we have to know something about the immunization program. So 3 diseases that a baby in Malaysia is vaccinated against are tuberculosis, hepatitis B, diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. So choose any 3 diseases, 3 marks. Now, second question, predict what happens if the baby was not vaccinated. Okay, so if the baby was not vaccinated, he will not have any artificial active immunity against these certain dangerous and infectious diseases, such as tuberculosis. He will have no antibodies, no memory lymphocytes to help destroy the specific pathogens of these dangerous diseases. Okay, because he was not given any injection of any vaccine to stimulate the production of antibodies and to cause the memory lymphocytes to be formed. So this baby will be like defenseless against these pathogens, and he will be unable to resist any infections by these dangerous pathogens like the bacteria, the tuberculosis bacteria, and so forth. So he will easily fall sick when exposed to these pathogens, and he may even die. Another thing is that the disease will spread faster within the community if the babies do not get vaccinated. That's all for this lesson. So stay tuned for the next lesson, where I will be discussing diseases, health issues related to the immune system. Thanks for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe. Goodbye for now.